always been good at finding patterns. And the closer I get to this topic, the more receptive I become to a new kind of language. One that speaks to the darkest parts of my soul.
Like, what would your last meal be?
Oh, brother, probably a fully loaded deep dish pizza. I love all kinds of pizza.
Yeah.
That's when this feeling of delusion sinks into my bones. Surely this clip of Hillary Clinton saying she loves pizza is just that, and nothing more. But I'd be lying if I didn't admit that a part of me, sometimes a large part of me, begins to consider the notion that what the former Secretary of State is doing here is talking to us.
I love all kinds of pizza.
Yeah.
And by us, I mean those who fully grok the scale of this topic completely.
Hillary, you are next. Name the most mischievous thing Chelsea did as a teenager in the White House.
My answer was order pizza, and here's what I mean by that.
Chelsea, your mother often babysits for you. What does she do that you don't approve of?
Pizza for lunch and dinner every day.
That's it, you scored a point. Well done. Okay.
I think the ultra-wealthy and the high class among us are infatuated with symbolism. And since probing into this issue, I now see the world with new eyes. Because for better or worse, I've opened a doorway in my mind which now notices their motifs. Q infamously said, their symbolism will be their downfall. But does this still feel true for anyone? Is it possible their symbology is more for us than them? A vehicle of sorts, driving us to change the way we think, or to, quote, reset into new paradigms. All I'm saying is, I didn't used to think this way, and I sometimes find it difficult to see how it's an improvement. I used to be able to watch a Disney movie, for example, without picking up on the endless Masonic emblems strewn throughout, or the blatant metaphors, in the case of Pinocchio, to a kind of Epstein Island.
I'm collecting stupid little boys. Stupid little boys. Then I take them to Pleasure Island.
Sometimes I wish I could close the door, but I know I can't. I've discovered something new. This is the patterns of the cabal. The first example is not directly related to human trafficking, but in my view, they remain relevant in how they point to patterns among the elite class. But do the apparent patterns we think we're discovering ultimately have a benign explanation? Are these images showing a genuine motif of Masonic influence? A new form of communication, waiting for us to take notice? Or are we applying meaning to something that doesn't exist? The fact that I can't say for sure is perhaps the most perplexing.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Although the music video makes it appear that all the images were drawn solely by Bieber's fans, according to the Brewer brothers, who directed the music video, they did indeed draw, quote, some of the images. Which drawings do you think were created by the Brewer brothers? In Pedogate Part 1, I showed how the term BH Kids functioned as a kind of code for pedophilic content online. And for the unfamiliar, the relevant piece to focus on here is the website liska.com, which is a Slovenian lingerie company that showed up in search results after I typed BH Kids into Google. More importantly, it showed an image of a naked girl, maybe age 5 or 6. Long story short, I found that when browsing liska.com, normally, no naked children were on their website, obviously. But simply typing BH Kids into Google was enough to literally activate new destination links to liska.com. New destination links which showed naked children, right? They were secret links, hidden links, activated by BH. Now, I initially found the term BH Kids after typing in these 3 Vietnamese words behind Anthony Bourdain and Obama. And the first thing that pulled up was this video of young Vietnamese children singing about not smoking, which is what the words behind Obama and Bourdain mean. They mean no smoking. Now, the video with the children came from a massive YouTube channel called BH Media. And the reason why I'm talking about all this again is because the cryptic function of BH that activates hidden links apparently doesn't only work for lingerie companies.
That is gorgeous. Can you paint like that?
The Brookview House in Boston, Massachusetts is a nonprofit organization that provides living solutions for homeless children. Now, BH is the acronym of Brookview House, so if BH Kids is on their site, it's a non-issue, and to think otherwise is paranoid. But it's not on their website. Nowhere can the term BH Kids be found. None of the categories go to a page that says BH Kids. No link loads to a page that says it. It's not there. But in the exact same way as liska.com, the good news is that it shows nothing indecent. The bad news is their website hides the page associated with the term BH Kids, then reveals it in the same way as what is arguably a website that shows child pornography. It could, of course, be a coincidence. The president and CEO of Brookview House is Deborah Hughes.
And I invite you to join us and help us create this movement. Thank you.
Season 1 of True Detective is one of the greatest television shows of my time. It follows 2 operatives investigating an alleged satanic cult thought to involve top law enforcement officials complicit in the cover-up of child sexual abuse and human trafficking. The creators chose to emphasize the demonic cult with this symbol. An obvious allusion to the actual pedophile symbol seen here in FBI documents. Documents which were present in episode 6 in the 3rd season of True Detective, which was called The Crooked Spiral.
Dolls are used as signifiers in the human trafficking underground. Like this blue spiral, it's code for pedophiles.
Season 1 of True Detective works so well because it knows so much about its subject's nature. In my view, only someone with knowledge of the symbolic patterns and behaviors could make a show which continually got right the details. This pedophile symbol is often mistaken as a, quote, circle, when it's actually a derivation of the original spirangle. The relevant shape for this symbol remains triangular, but it's subtle, almost circular, but not quite. One could argue that this level of detail toward the symbolism of pedophile groups could potentially come from a deeper understanding than most of us. An understanding of what these cults seemingly convey to us. What you're about to see is the opening scene of True Detective Season 1. Let me know if anything sticks out to you.
Yeah, cult, ritual, murder. You can thank the advertiser for that.
Could you
All right, yeah.
hold off on
Can't do that here no more.
Oh, you assholes. You want to hear this or not?
Now, given the charges that were brought down today in regards to Harvey, what are your thoughts? What are just your whole thoughts about that?
So, Dr. Phil, I am going to give you from now till April 5th to issue an apology, not only to me, but to Hannah and any other child that you sent to Turnabout or any other program like this. And if you don't, I'm going to handle things my way.
The plaintiff was sent to the Turnabout Ranch after an appearance on the Dr. Phil show. Hannah Archuleta says she was 17 when she was sexually assaulted twice by a staff member in 2019.
I expected to be treated with understanding. Instead, I experienced retaliation from the ranch after I spoke up.
That's the thing with these places is you have no evidence. You don't have a phone there. They don't have cameras there. Like, there's no evidence of none of this. And obviously all the staff is in on it.
Children were restrained, hit, thrown into walls, strangled, and sexually abused regularly at Provo. I could not report this because all communication with my family was monitored and censored. And what is disgusting is the program doesn't just censor communication with family, but also with the entire outside world. So there was no way we could call for help.
In Pedogate Part 2, many criticized my inclusion of Donnie Wahlberg, who, being part of the boy band New Kids on the Block, refers to his fans as blockheads. But he actually never uses the term blockheads. Instead, he abbreviates it with BH. Now, after listening to the criticism coming from quite a few of my followers that Donnie Wahlberg has nothing to do with any of this, I became somewhat sympathetic to this notion. I mean, just because your boy band is about, quote, new kids, connecting that to the more insidious interpretations of BH felt unfair. My sympathies toward this rebuke, however, were challenged within the first few seconds of inquiry into who it was that owned New Kids on the Block. I'm not precisely sure as to the true nature of BH, or the enigmatic pedophile spiral, or the possibility that an elite cult of child sacrifice exists among us today. But sometimes, when I'm in a certain mood, and the timing is just so, I get this sense that my deepest suspicions about the nature of evil in this world are true. But then this notion fades, and I have doubts. Deep doubts that I merely live in a reality of my own creation, never noticing, only imagining. After a while, my thoughts form an equilibrium, a balancing act. Things get back to normal, until a new pattern reveals itself to me, and I'm left questioning everything all over again. A new cycle of ornaments and arrangements that once perceived cannot be unseen.
Alrighty then. I'm gonna just sit for a second and digest all that, because that's just one part of what I have to bring you. And depending on how, like, I've already gone over this, I've already set stuff aside, so I've already looked at it, most of it, all of it, you know. I skipped through over a couple of them, trying to get everything ready. And even this is just the tip of the iceberg. Honestly, I don't even know how many parts it would take of a series to get through all this. This does tie in with the other things that I've been making videos about with the missing children and children that have not been found yet, especially. And it goes from the lowest of lows, you know, people living in a Motel 6, or people living in a small little trailer in a trailer park somewhere in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Usually whose parents are probably more than likely on drugs. Those kids get sold every day. I had no idea about familial trafficking until I started looking into all this stuff. It's something that, I mean, it just never even occurred to me that anybody would ever do, even though I heard that song by Reba McEntire, Fancy. Thinking back on that, I'm kind of shocked, honestly, because it's what that song is about. And unfortunately, in the poorest areas, that's where so many kids are taken. And other places as well. Usually it's opportunity. It's interesting. But anyway, I don't want to keep this too long tonight, so I'm going to go with one more, and then I may come back live later. It seems to be when people are more able to, like, sit and chat and talk, and hopefully they'll have watched some of this at least by the time we do a chat about it, because I know this stuff is hard to look at, but that's why it's so important. It is so important because we're the ones who have to speak up and make a change. We're the only ones who can do it. Each of us individually have to just decide we're not going to take this anymore. We're not going to allow children to take this anymore. And you know that old saying, if you see something, say something, right? Well, let's use it for real. But when it comes to children, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and play the next video. So it all goes in together. Adrenochrome, the elite, all that stuff. So that's what I'm going to kind of go ahead and play. I may or may not come back on the end. It depends, to at least educate themselves on what is going on in our world. And understand, it does. It starts at the top. You can always follow the money. But unfortunately, a lot of these children come from the most poor areas and even middle class areas. Johnny Gosh is a good example. Some of these kids are definitely stolen in traffic. Some are sold by their parents, and some grow up in these families, and it's generational. So they have to live through it. And there are a couple of children who have come forward and talked about this stuff. Tom Hanks' son, you know, he's come out with some stuff. There's actually so many, but let's get to the next one. And thank you for coming and watching this. I know it's hard, but we have got to spread the word to stop child trafficking, to save our children, to give children a voice, and also to stop legal trafficking through who are supposed to protect our children, such as Child Protective Services or whatever it's called in every state. But it's the welfare, you know, where children are taken and put into the foster care system. That's what I'm talking about. That is a deep, deep hole. We'll go into it later. It's going to start with this, but it's kind of like you have to understand the top part of the pyramid to understand why and how the tentacles get all the way down into the other, just small town, USA city, anywhere, or in another country. It's horrible. For instance, like the Clinton Foundation in Haiti and Allison Mack. And if you don't know about that, just go look it up. It's out there. The information's out there. Now they do try to stop it, but it is out there. So while I am finding this next video quickly, I'll just say that it is time to wake up, people. It is cock-a-doodle-doo. Like, we can no longer look away and let this continue. It's going to get worse. It's not going to get better unless we say something. We have to stop these agendas that are promoting pedophilia. It is not okay. It is not okay. It is not okay to sexualize our children through Disney movies. I'll get on that another night. If you don't believe me, I will share and prove it to you in front of your own eyes. Listen, and I'm just as guilty. I grew up on Disney, went there for my honeymoon. I've always let my children and even my grandchildren watch Disney because, honestly, you know, when you don't know, you don't know. But when you do know, it's what you do then. So it's hard to break traditions and habits. It is. I understand. But at the same time, we have got to protect our children, and they're being groomed from the time they're old enough to even sit up in front of a television set. And Disney seems so innocent. I remember the old Walt Disney theme song from when I was a little girl, and it would come on Sunday night. I believe it was 7 o'clock. And I would hear that coming on, and I would run to the den and sit on the floor in front of the old big console TVs that looked like a piece of furniture. You sit pictures on the top of it, back in the 70s. And I just, to this day, that sound or that music and, the Disney logo that comes up, I mean, it evokes emotion for me, like nostalgia. And it does for many people. It does. And it's hard. It's so hard to believe, that these things have been going on all along. But let's just say, look up the Walt Disney 33 Club. And if you don't know what a 33 is, it is a 33rd degree level of Freemasonry, which is one of the top levels of Freemasonry, at least that they speak of. And it's where you're illuminated to understand that Lucifer is the God that they believe in. And so these people are true Luciferian. So most everybody in Hollywood has made a deal. Some have tried to get out of it, and you'll see a lot of times that is when people are either destroyed by their career, their career is destroyed, or you'll see that they have died, or they've called red rum, red rum themselves. You know what I'm saying? Often. So it is definitely a real thing. And sometimes they'll make it look like the person has done that to themselves when they indeed have not. Or they'll make it look like some tragic accident or whatever. Nowadays, it's not even like they're trying to hide it. The father from Full House, looking at his death, strange, isn't it? But look at his life. He was very deep into joking and making jokes about child essay and things like that, and things that he did on the set of Full House even are disturbing, and the relationship that he had with the twins, Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen. So you can even look at that. They have spoken out about some of that, but I think there are bigger secrets that will come out. But these people are starting to be exposed, and they will be exposed. They will continue to be exposed. I'm not talking about just Hollywood. I'm talking about big mega church pastors. I'm talking about all these politicians. I'm talking about leaders, kings, royals, all of it. It's all going to be made to be known. People are going to see it. Listen, it's up to them whether they choose to continue to swallow the lie, believe the lie, or if they choose to see the way things really are. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and go to the next video. God bless you if I don't talk anymore tonight.
Admittedly, as it pertains to the elite, and the apparent operations they construct, and their ostensible ability to evade prosecution, I'm impressed. How have they become so powerful? Or perhaps a better question, how did they become so evil? Is power, by its very nature, a requisite to malevolence? I'm not sure, I am sure, however, that when it comes to human trafficking, it's not, as it pertains to America, for example, about Democrat versus Republican, but good versus evil. Too often, those of us closest to this subject matter conflate its findings with an interpretation of partisanship. This is a problem, because it jeopardizes our ability to transcend the political and unify under a single banner with the intent to help those who most desperately need it. The following video will be an attempt to prove this point. I'll start with a question. In America, what is the punishment for producing child pornography? Is it 2 years in jail? 5 years? 10 years? The minimum sentence for first-time offenders producing child pornography is 15 years in prison, according to the DOJ. But apparently, if you're a prominent politician, laws protecting children are optional. Republican Congressman Robert Bowman, for the stated crime of having sex with a 16-year-old boy, his charges were dropped after completing a, quote, treatment program. Republican Councilman Keola Childs pled guilty to child molestation, spent 1 year in jail, spread across 12 years, serving 30 days whenever he wanted each year. Republican campaign consultant and activist Tom Shortridge, for the crime of not just having but producing child pornography, he received 3 years probation. Republican elections director Kevin Cohn, for the crime of soliciting a 14-year-old girl over the internet, he received 2 years probation. Republican City Councilman Fred C. Smeltzer Jr., for the crime of raping a 15-year-old girl, he was released after 6 months in prison. Republican Judge Mark Pazuhanik pled no contest to sexually molesting his 10-year-old daughter. He was given 10 years probation. Republican Speaker of the House Dennis Hastert pled guilty to child molestation. Prior to his conviction, Hastert said child molesters should, quote, be put in jail for the rest of their lives. And the judge presiding over Hastert said, quote, nothing is more stunning than having serial child molester and Speaker of the House in the same sentence. Hastert was released from jail after 13 months. Republican Representative Jem Noblack. His daughter claimed he molested her between the ages of 9 and 21. He gave his resignation, and there was no further consequence. Democratic Congressman Fred Richmond, for the crime of soliciting sex from a 16-year-old boy, he was never charged, and after he said he was sorry, he actually won re-election. Democratic Governor Neil Goldschmidt admitted to raping a 13-year-old girl, and the charges were dropped. Democratic Mayor Gary Becker, for the crime of child molestation, possession, and distribution of child pornography, he was released from jail after 3 years. Democratic Mayor Ed Murray, accused by 5 people, including his foster son, of ongoing child sexual abuse, he was allowed to resign without further consequence. And of course, Democratic Congressman Anthony Weiner, Democratic donor and activist and Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein, billionaire Democratic donor Jeffrey Epstein, Democratic aide and friend to Hillary Clinton Laura Silsby are among the pantheon of Democratic pedophiles or accused child sex traffickers, given lenient or no sentencing at all in relation to their stated crimes. It's important to remember that these were the only public officials who were actually caught, right? One wonders how many more government people are currently molesting children in secret right now.
Fresh allegations that TV icon Sir Jimmy Savile abused young girls during his career.
In a statement, the BBC said it conducted extensive searches of its files to establish whether there is any record of misconduct.
The BBC is the same organization that, according to their own investigation, knowingly allowed Jimmy Savile, one of Britain's most prolific pedophiles, to sexually abuse children. Even while rumors of his penchant for kids spread, he was knighted in 1990, and just months ago, an independent inquiry reaffirmed that several British officials, quote, actively shielded and covered up child sex abuse for decades. Here are some of the names and occupations of those with evidence of participation in or sympathies to pedophilia among the British establishment. Sir Peter Morrison, former private secretary to Margaret Thatcher. The Daily Telegraph reported allegations that Morrison raped a 14-year-old boy at Elms Guest House in London. Former child social worker Peter Wrighton, who was allowed to continue working after claims he was molesting the children. He established what the Metropolitan Police describe as, quote, a pedophile network. Former Prime Minister Sir Edward Heath, the Conservative politician, was accused of raping and, quote, indecently assaulting 5 boys. Sir Cyril Smith, former MP, abused several children for, quote, perverted amusement. Sir Clement Freud, former MP, was accused by 3 women of sexually abusing them when they were children. British writer Tom O'Carroll, founder of the Pedophile Information Exchange, or PI, a British-funded pedophilia advocacy group seeking to abolish the age of consent. Sir Rhodes Boyson, former MP, was yet another member of the Pedophile Information Exchange and was knighted in 1987. Sir Leon Britton, former MP, objected to a request to ban the Pedophile Information Exchange. Leon Britton was knighted in 1989. Sir Greville Jenner, former MP, who in one instance posed as a carer in a children's home in order to sexually abuse a young boy. Sir Keith Joseph, former MP, according to the Sunday Mirror, Sir Keith Joseph and Sir Rhodes Boyson indulged in sex parties with underage, quote, rent boys. Sir Peter Heyman, former MP, outspoken member of PI, and of course, he was knighted in 1971. Unfortunately, with the exception of Tom O'Carroll, justice will never be served, because the allegations against these high members of British Parliament have only recently been made public, and all of the accused are now dead. The UK's most notorious address is Dolphin Square, home to MPs, senior military, royalty, spies, law enforcement, and other powerful figures. In a dossier presented to Scotland Yard, one victim, named Nick, said he'd be taken there in a chauffeur-driven car and abused by a group of men during parties, saying at one point he witnessed a boy being strangled to death by a Conservative member of Parliament. A similar dossier was given to Margaret Thatcher in 1999. She never mentioned it. I encourage you to share this video with skeptics of this topic. They can vet the information and discover that it's all true. I want these people to know what's going on. The culmination of my research into elite human trafficking has convinced me without question that pedophiles, in large part, manage, own, and run the world. And to think otherwise is misguided. For example, not all sex offenders are pedophiles, right? But it's still true that the majority have committed sexual crimes against children. With that in mind, consider this question. How many sex offenders do you think live in your zip code? The number might surprise you. Now, scale that number up to your city, then your state, then your country, and the number jumps to over 800,000, and this is only in America, and only the offenders who were caught. Forensic psychologist Dr. Michael Cito, an author of Pedophilia and Sexually Offending Against Children, put the prevalence of pedophilia in the general population around 1%. Even if we were to cut that figure in half, 0.5% of the human population is roughly 40 million people. So according to Dr. Cito's research, it's not a conspiracy that among our leaders are pedophiles, but a statistical certainty. Similar to the nepotism and Freemasonry, pedophiles in positions of power would almost certainly have an interest in protecting themselves by recruiting those with similar penchants. Psychologist Dr. Knapp wrote, "The serial killer has the same personality characteristics as the sex offender against children. If psychopathy is a trait of pedophiles, then it follows that among any group of them would exist an approval of and desire for child sex trafficking. But without the means to carry out such an operation, most pedophiles have to facilitate their malevolence online, the content of which is becoming progressively depraved, substantiating the notion that pedophiles do share correlative defects with psychopaths." So when analyzing the world's elite class, the statistical average for the presence of pedophiles in society doesn't suddenly go away. In fact, when factoring in the elite's accrued wealth and resources, which include royalty, intelligence officials, Masonic leaders, banking dynasties, and religious authorities, if they intended to conduct or navigate within existing enterprises of child sex trafficking, they could surely do so. Pedophiles are everywhere, and they don't suddenly disappear when they become powerful. It's up to us to ensure pedophiles stay away from children at all costs. This is why it's so upsetting that we happen to exist in a culture that gives politicians a slap on the wrist or no punishment at all when their depravity is revealed to the world. This has to change. If it were up to me, pedophiles would never be allowed to re-enter civilized society. But it's not up to me. Instead, I'm part of a country whose very leader continues to lay bare his apparent proclivity for small children. I'm not sure what, if anything, can be done about this. I mean, what do we do? I don't know. But I'm not going to stop going after them, in the hopes that someday justice will be done.
So you said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long...
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
But you were staying at the house of
Yes.
a convicted sex offender.
All right. Whew. That's a lot to take in. So that's going to segue into the next little snippet. It's going to be a little bit shorter, a good bit shorter. And it is out of Hunter Biden's diary about his father. And I haven't even seen this one yet, so we're going to be watching this one together for the first time. All right.
Violence.
What do you think about Hunter?
Because make no mistake, sit down, you'll hear what I have to say.
What do you think about Hunter, your son? There's a video of him arguing with a cooker about how much crack he has. What do you think about that, Mr. President?
Okay? Because make no mistake about it.
No, I just laid out the bag. It's 2.06.
2.07 without the bag.
So how long is
Has anybody seen the image of Hunter Biden's diary? Like his artwork where he talks about his dad? Go ahead and pause it or take a screenshot. Do whatever you got to do, but we're going to go over a few things. So let's start right off the bat. Is Hunter Biden right up here talking about how much he hates his dad? I hate Joe Biden. Doesn't even call him dad. Says it 13 times. Got a creepy picture of a star up here, skeleton, and it talks about the pain, memory loss, death, die, no more Joe, sickness, and then it says warehouse election. And Joe Biden will get sick and die. It says that like all down through here too. And then, oh, there's Joe right there. And, you know, right over here is kind of, I hereby summon wicked and evil spirit. And then it goes on, malignant something or another, the death of Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. That's our president, guys. Page number 2. More about the hate of Joe right here. Picture of a doctor cross off. I mean, to me, it kind of looks like Hitler a little bit. But Joe Biden will die. Joe Biden will die. Death, destroy. Now it says summon bad spirit with an ice cream cone. No malarkey. Be gone, Joe Biden, die. So you've got Ashley Biden in her diary talking about how her dad is a child molester. And you have our president's son talking about how bad he wants his dad to die. And Sounds like he's casting a spell on him. I mean, you guys, like, this is the sitting president of the United States. This is his son's diary. How do you think, do you think that if something was on the dark web about Donald Trump Jr. or Melania, if she wrote, Donald Trump molested me, what do you think CNN would do with that? Nobody's even talking about the shit that this kid did. There is literally videos of him having sex with underage girls, and he is still walking the streets. I am so confused right now. These people are wicked.
Indeed, these people are wicked. They really, really are. And the only thing that I can say is we really need to pray for our country and the children of the world, because this is the last video, okay? And this is going to be one of the reasons they do this, okay? Is to get this, what I'm fixing to play. All right? It's hard to believe, I know, but unfortunately, it is the state we're living in, the world we're living in. I have two videos I want to play, but I don't know if I should play both of them right now or come back. It's just like I'm already starting, so I might as well show you what I've got here, and then we can go on to some other things, a little more like, I guess, in segments to show the extent of this stuff, I guess. Okay, so we'll go to this.
I think there's only one source for this. Adrenaline gland from a living human body.
It's a drug. It is a drug.
Adrenochrome, a substance extracted from a living human body. But could such a drug be real? According to numerous independent researchers, not only is it real, many of the Illuminati elite are addicted to it and will stop at nothing to satisfy their depraved demand.
Said it would take me higher than I'd ever been in my life.
Join me as we dive down the dark rabbit hole of adrenochrome.
She said to my ear, "I'm going to drink your blood."
Long before popular culture portrayed vampires as sexy heroes, stories of a monstrous nobility who craved human blood were very much real. Elizabeth Bathory, the notorious Blood Countess, was a 17th century Hungarian noblewoman who systematically murdered numerous young servant girls, not only bathing in, but consuming their blood.
The tortures went on. From bathing, it was only one step to drinking. Elizabeth would pierce the flesh of a victim, hoist her up to the rafters, then swallow the blood as it ran down.
Could there really be a sect among society that is actually addicted to blood? And if so, why? Deeper research shows the reason might lie in a certain hormone which floods our bodies during times of intense fear or excitement, adrenaline.
So adrenaline is a substance that your body releases into your bloodstream when you're in a potentially dangerous situation.
It's responsible for the fight or flight response in mammals, heightening senses and increasing strength and energy.
In some ways, the fear response gives us superhuman powers. You find that you're able to really concentrate. You're able to use muscular strength to an extent that otherwise would be impossible. basically these chemicals that cascade into our bloodstream and flood into our brain, they change the way we think and they change the way our bodies function. We don't feel pain.
In the right conditions, it can be exhilarating and downright addicting, thus the term adrenaline junkies.
When we're experiencing something like a parachute jump, we're experiencing the same chemicals in our brain that a meth user experiences in their brain. So absolutely, you can become addicted to that sensation.
Whether human or animal, blood sacrifice has long been part of the rituals of many cultures, and it was discovered that after consuming the fresh adrenaline-saturated blood of a terrified victim, participants would experience a type of high off of the adrenaline, which could include increased senses, hallucinations, and feelings of euphoria, sometimes assigning a supernatural causality to the effects. Eventually, the precise timing was worked out, so that the victim would be killed at the moment the maximum amount of adrenaline had been pumped into the body. This knowledge was passed down through secret societies, ancient mystery schools, and intergenerational satanic cults.
When they torture the children, it causes a physical reaction of the endomorphins in your body to just increase because of the terror and the pain. So when the Satanists drink the blood, they actually get like a chemical, a high, like a drug high from the blood of a tortured victim.
These entities are feeding off human energy. And one of the things that they do is when they're sacrificing somebody, the people with invisible light, the Satanists and the bloodlines, they'll drink the blood because when the terror reaches a certain point in the ritual, a certain adrenaline goes in the blood, which gives these people a high. I mean, sick is not the word. But on another level, an energetic level, the entities are feeding off the energy coming off of terror and fear.
Most satanic sacrifices include some consumption of the blood, and possibly even body parts. Even more disturbingly, some of these groups make a point of preferring the blood of children, believing it to be more potent. Another reason the elite drink children's blood is for its known rejuvenating effects. Why do you think some of these old Illuminati Satanists live so long?
It turns out that drinking children's blood is an anti-aging device. This is just really sick and disgusting, but it's a fact. It's a chemical fact. And if you drink adrenalized children's blood, which is to say you terrorize the child, not just with sodomy, but with torture and with other satanic ritual things. If you adrenalize the child's blood before you kill them and drink their blood, this is a doubly effective anti-aging device. You can also harvest children's bone marrow. So children are being killed for their bone marrow as an anti-aging device for the elite. I don't make this stuff up. It's gone on throughout history. This is not new.
Today, many of the satanic elite are addicted to drinking adrenalized blood.
Any animal that is tortured at the time of its death secretes all this adrenochrome. And that is this power. It's a drug. It is a drug. And these people are addicted to it. And because they call upon interdimensional demonic forces or to help do their bidding, they also believe anyway that they have increased power. And perhaps they do.
Numerous survivors have attested to satanic sects engaging in ritualistic consumption of adrenalized blood, experiencing a high from the adrenaline.
When they go to murder a child, they make sure the child is terrified, so they pump the adrenaline through the blood. And they like to drink that blood, and they're addicted to adrenaline, a lot of them. So there's actually a science, when you analyze it, there's a science behind their madness.
According to researcher Kurt Barker, author of the book Cannibalism, Blood Drinking, and High Adept Satanism, well-organized cult members systematically abduct people, torture them to adrenalize their blood, harvest that blood, and drink it. He goes on to state that some professional harvesters acquire adrenalized blood to sell. Pop artists such as Kesha perform mock blood drinking rituals on stage. Adrenalized blood, however, is not the end. Like other addicts seeking a stronger hit, some prefer the purest, most potent form. Enter adrenochrome, the rumored secret Illuminati drug. Technically, it's a chemical compound produced in the human body when adrenaline oxidizes. It was first mentioned as a recreational drug obtained from a Satanist in Hunter S. Thompson's book, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Where'd you get this?
Never mind, it's absolutely pure.
What kind of monster clan have you hooked up with this time?
Satanism freak.
I think there's only one source for this stuff. The adrenaline gland from a living human body.
I know. The guy didn't have any cash to pay me. He offered me human blood, said it would take me higher than I'd ever been in my life. I was kidding. I told him I'd just as soon have an ounce or so of pure adrenochrome. Or maybe just a fresh adrenaline to chew on.
Some say his account was purely fictional. However, Thompson was an expert at combining fiction with heavy doses of truth. And Thompson certainly would know. He himself has been accused of being involved in snuff film operations for the Illuminati elite. In this raw form, adrenochrome is known to cause extreme hallucinations and feelings of empowerment and euphoria. How is the chemical extracted? A victim is terrorized, either being tortured or knowing they're going to be sacrificed, increasing the amount of adrenaline that is flowing through their body. They are then killed, and the adrenochrome is collected with a syringe from the base of the neck or spinal column. According to researcher and author Fritz Springmeier, a human victim only produces around 10 cc's of adrenochrome. So once it's collected, the drug can be sold on the deep black market and corners of the dark web at exorbitant prices. Pop culture has provided strong hints that this secretive drug could be a real thing. In his book A Clockwork Orange, English writer Anthony Burgess listed a substance called adrenochrome as one of the drugs that could be added to his fictional Milk Plus. Stanley Kubrick later chose to make this as a film, and some researchers have speculated it's about adrenochrome. In 1982, British rock band Sisters of Mercy released a song called Adrenochrome, which mentions the mysterious substance several times. So what do you guys think? Was Hunter S. Thompson giving us a little dose of reality? Could this be the real reason behind all the legends of vampires and other blood drinkers? I'll be eager to see what you think in the comments. And as always, I want to thank my patrons at patreon.com for supporting this channel and these documentaries. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe.
Okay. That's a difficult thing to talk about, but it's really true, and it's really going on. And listen, I've gone too far into now to stop, so I'm just going to continue to bring awareness to this, because it's all tied in like a perfect spider web. If you look at a spider web and the way it weaves, it just like has attached to everything, and it goes so deep, and it's just like, I mean, you're sitting there and you can watch this and you see it. You know it's true. I knew it was true before even the internet came out. But here's the situation. These things are so sick, it's hard to believe that people would do this stuff. It is just truly like, oh my gosh, like what makes people this sick, you know? And actually, Hunter S. Thompson, he has got a very bad reputation, and he is very disturbing. Just saying. There was actually something I saw earlier that I did want to play, and I didn't put it aside, but it was actually a child that was basically trying to reach out to other children that have been trafficked and things like that. But there are so many of them. Really, I could go over them at another time. But it's just so disturbing. And then we've got the Hunter Biden talking about his father. He refers to him as Pedo Pete, and that was his diary that I showed earlier, that he was talking about putting spells on his father. So that was interesting. And yeah, there's a lot going on there. I don't know. I feel that, I don't know. Our country's in a mess. I'm just going to say that, because it's like, it reminds me of Revelation 12:12. And yeah. Yep. Fragment does, doesn't it? It says, rejoice to the heavens, but oh ye, something about Lucifer has come down among you. And we know that, of course, Lucifer has always, been the prince of the power of the air, the prince of this world, whatever, the little g of this world, because he won it fair and square in the garden, you know what I'm saying? And the situation is, he really did, even offer Jesus, if he would just bow down and worship him, Lucifer, Satan, after he fell, that he would give him everything, and of course, Jesus said no, and he combated him with scripture, as we should. Anytime the enemy comes against us with any kind of fiery dart, we need to combat it with scripture. That's why it's so important to know the scriptures. And if you don't, just at least know, listen, I rebuke that in the blood of Jesus Christ. It's the blood. They hate the power of the blood of Jesus Christ that he shed for us, everybody that would choose to believe and follow him. Prognatos is 10% to the big guy. Yeah. And we know who the big guy is, right? Because listen, if this, not that I'm a Trumpian, I'm not, I don't hold any person, man or woman, politician, whoever, even like, how people have like fans they are of musical people. I like some music and stuff like that, but like, I'm just not a fanatic about anybody anymore, because we all put our clothes on the same way. We all have to get up in the morning and brush our teeth and go to the bathroom, and you know what I'm saying? We all are subject to the same thing, and it's just like, I just don't look up to people like that. So my thing is this, okay? I'm just saying, because whether this be an act or what's really going on, because they are so good at deception. That's their hand, that's their game, and illusion. But if, I'm just saying, like somebody said it earlier in this video, one of these videos, if it were like Don Jr., doing the stuff that Hunter Biden is, like, oh my gosh, it would be all over the news. On every station, it's all you can see. I don't watch the news, but I'm just saying, I know for a fact, I mean, I've seen little blippets here and there on YouTube, but I'm just saying, I know for a fact that would just be plastered everywhere. And, if, I mean, it's just the people that are in it the most, it's just like there is a spell cast over our country and the world that they just cannot see past it. Most people, they just can't see past it. They're starstruck. And the stars are falling. You're a Trumpian? Yeah, well, the thing is, like, I feel like so many people, like, started to kind of idolize him. And listen, I definitely voted for him. There was no way I was going to let that witch Hillary win. No way. I mean, and I prayed about it and prayed about it and prayed about it from the primary. Because I'm just going to be honest with you, I couldn't stand the man. But that's just for personal reasons from back whenever, like he left his first wife because he was messing around with Marla Maples. And, his daughter, Ivanka, I get them confused. Ivana and Ivanka. It's so hard to remember which one is which. Okay, Ivanka is the daughter. Okay, she went to boarding school with a lady's daughter that went to the same hair salon that I did hair at. So, like, I would hear all of the inside stuff, And I don't know, me as a woman, and just hearing, of course, her talking about what her mom was going through, and she was going through a hard time at first, with that. And I don't know, it just kind of made me have a bad taste in my mouth about him, just even back then. So, and then I don't know, it's just, I don't know, it was something about him that just disturbed me. And he just got on my nerves. And then he bought the pageant system, the Miss Universe pageant system, and I was like, was it Miss Universe or Miss America? You'd think I'd know that. I'm having one of those brain moments. But I'm telling you, it's just like, when he bought that, I was like, I don't know. I never just really was very much in him. And then he was on The Apprentice, and my husband would watch that sometimes. And I like that show pretty okay. It was funny kind of, but he still got on my nerves. But I'll tell you how this, I know this is God's, okay? Because I didn't care for the man that much. And even with everything, they tried to say about him, like, I didn't really think much of what he said, or they caught him on a hot mic saying, because I was thinking to myself, that's nothing compared to what the other side has done with, and allowing her own husband, and then going after the women instead of her own cheating, lying, predatory husband. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, no. So I prayed about it. And let me tell you something. By the time it got to be the point, it was time to vote, I was like all in, because I was like, you know what? This man is pro-life. Now listen, I understand he used to not be pro-life, but people, they change. Heck, I used to be a lot of things, and I'm not that now. So I'm just saying, he definitely was a pro-life president because of Donald Trump. Thank you, Donald Trump, because the whole reason I elected you, which was to stop abortion, he did it. So you know what? I've got to give him a round of applause for that, because not one other time that I've ever voted for a president. The reason I always vote is because I'm pro-life, and I wanted the Roe versus Wade to be overturned. And because I was forced to have an abortion when I turned like 14 to 15, that's a whole other testimony and story. But anyway, the Lord turned it around for good, and a bunch of babies have been saved because of the testimony of what God has done in the restoration. But what I'm going to say is this, okay? Donald Trump actually put into play what it took to overturn that, because, see, and people want to say, they want to give Biden credit for that. That's such a joke. The truth of the matter is, because Ruth, I hate to even say her name, but you know who I'm talking about, Ruth Bader Ginsburg or whatever. She was so sure Hillary was going to go into office. She knew she was going to retire when Hillary went into office, and she wanted Hillary to name her predecessor. Well, the old bat, I'm sorry, but that's just what she is in my eyes. But anyway, she goes and dies when Donald Trump is in office. She didn't see that coming. So she thought Hillary was going to be in there. So here's the situation. He put in 2 people that were pro-life. All right. Now, I'm going to be honest about it. They were Jesuits. And we do got to be careful with the Jesuits. I'm just saying, look into the Jesuit oath. And they were both trained in Jesuit schools. And that worries me a little bit. However, I know that they were going to vote to overturn Roe v. Wade if it came up. And indeed it did. So, I think that's a double-edged sword too, though, because, it kind of backfired on them if you think about it. All those years, they said, my body, my choice for abortion, right? But then when it came to the old sticker, you know what I'm saying? And then whenever we said, well, no, wait a minute now. It's my body and my choice, right, for my health care. And we're not even affecting anybody else, right? Because if those things work so well that you're getting and trying to force me to get, then why are you not okay with you getting it? Because I'm only putting my own self at risk, right? If that works so well. God can use anybody, and I believe he is using him to wake people up. Oh, he had definitely done that. That is for sure. Oh, I said, for sure. God used him. There's no doubt about it. I've got a bunch of videos on here where I have spoken about that. I even spoke what was going to happen with the election situation. Now, I feel like some people look at him as a savior, like he's the only one that can save our country. Now, listen, I know he is the best candidate for sure. Oh my gosh. I mean, we know what we got in office right now. I hate to say it, but we got a 3rd term in office right now. Something wasn't good to start with, but now it's even worse because he's got a beard or a puppet, so he can actually do the real things he wants to do and blame it on the old puppet, right? And so the puppet master can go on doing what he wants to do and the way he wants to do it, but he gets to have a fall guy, which is that of Mr. Poopy Pet. So, yeah, I definitely believe. And this is another thing. Look, think about this. All this child trafficking and all this stuff, you never hardly ever heard about it, anything about it. And I will say this. Now listen, whatever the situation is, when he went in office, you started seeing people started to go down one after the other like dominoes, and they're still falling because he's still working from where he is at, and he is not stopping. So I hope they continue to fall one by one. And I still believe that, like I said, I think God will use anybody. He used King Cyrus in the Bible. He used, look at King David, how he thought of King David. King David did, let's see. He had an affair with Bathsheba. Then he tried to cover it up by having her husband killed. And then, he had like soldiers killed. I mean, he did some things he shouldn't have done, but think about how much God loved David. It's not all the time the mistakes we make. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's the way we allow God to use, even despite the mistakes we make, because he can turn it around and he can show his mercy and his grace and his love, and the fact that no matter how far we go sometimes, like we are never too far from his mercy and his grace and his love, that he loves us so much. We just meet him where we are. It doesn't matter. It does not matter where we are. We meet him where we are, and he will do the work to help us get where he wants us to be. And I definitely believe Trump, think about his name even, Trump. In the Bible, it even says, listen to this. And this, okay, it could be a coincidence. It could be, but it could not be. Okay? But it says, at the last trump. Okay? Now, that's talking about the resurrection of the saints. Okay? Now, I'm just saying, it could mean something. And we really won't know until that time gets here because we don't know what's coming in 2024, right? But I just believe that, listen, bad things happen because this is a fallen world. Satan has deceived the whole world into thinking he's not even real. He has deceived the whole world into thinking that it's okay to make up your own God in your own image instead of actually taking and making yourself and allowing him to transform you or me into his image, which is the way it's supposed to go, right? And unfortunately, these days, and the Bible warns us of all this. This is what I think is so amazing. Like that, look how old that book is. Seriously, it is so old. And you can even look in Revelation, but all the way back even in the Old Testament, all these different prophecies that were prophesied in the Bible, I mean, they're coming to pass like boom, 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 boom. I'm not even kidding. I cannot believe how fast, when I look, things are being revealed. And I know that the Lord told me that this is a season of revelation, and that means also of revealing things. This is a season of exposure. He's giving people time to repent. I'm talking these mega pastors and these mega preachers even, and they're doing even worse things than just taking money from people and buying jets and 20,000 square foot houses and Rolls Royces and Ferraris and that kind of thing, when that could go to feed and help shelter and give fresh water and help the orphans and the widows, because in the Bible it says that is the only pure and true undefiled religion. And James says is to take care of the widows and the orphans. So all of these other religiousness and religious deeds and rituals and all this kind of stuff, it's going to just burn away like chaff, because the Lord says, listen, obedience over sacrifice. Okay? He's already given the great sacrifice, which was Jesus Christ on the cross. That's the only sacrifice that needs to be made. Thank you. And it's already been made. So, you know, we don't need to sacrifice anymore. But if you notice, Satanists, they're all into sacrificing because they even know it's about the blood. Right? And think about this. What else has been introduced to us, and it's about the blood? You know, blood-brain barrier. Let's just say that, you know, we're not going to be ignorant to the enemy's devices, right? Well, I'm going to go because my sweet husband made some ribs and tea and fried potatoes and onions. We always end up talking about food on here every time. God, let's see. Oh, Frognado. Yeah, she said, God, anybody? And oh, Frognado, did you see I gave you a wrench? Also, for moderator. I don't know if you can see it or not. But anyway, I love you, and I might be back on later tonight so that maybe some people have had time to watch the videos, and we can have a discussion. If I don't fall asleep, I'm going to eat this meal, and we'll see how things go. But I know you've already probably hit the bell. So if anybody comes and watches this video later, just hit the bell, because if I come back on later tonight for us to do a little chat, then you'll get notified. All right? Well, I love you, Frognado, and I hope that you have a great night, and maybe we'll talk later, okay? All right. See you later. And I know this is a hard video. I know it was really heavy, and, you know, I hate to be the one, honestly, to have to show it. But honestly, I guess we all need to be doing it. We all need to be revealing this stuff, because, you know, the old saying that bad things continue to happen when good people say nothing or do nothing. And I don't know how much I can do to actually go out and rescue children myself, but I sure have a mouth that I can use, and a little tiny platform that maybe, will spark other people to want to do the same thing. And then, we can bring awareness to this and help the children. I know that evil things are going to continue on, but that doesn't mean that we still shouldn't take up our sword and our suit of armor and fight the good fight, right? And the Bible says it's better to tie a millstone around your neck than to cause a little tiny one or a little innocent one or a little one, a child, to go astray or to have evil things done to them. And I know, not everybody is called to this, and I understand that, but I think we're all called to at least look into it and see that it's real, and sign petitions or at least something, because these children are having to go through the most atrocious things. And I do have a video that I may go ahead and play that later tonight, even if I don't come on like live or whatever, if I get tired. But it is actually a very good video of, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't even watched it yet, but it's called These Little Ones, and it's going to be a hard one to watch. But like I said, this stuff has got to be talked about. It just does. So anyway, I'm going to go eat this good food, and I will be back on later tonight, hopefully. And if not, definitely tomorrow. All right. Love you. Talk to you later. Good night.